Growing up in Still Valley, it was very, very interesting because we knew each other, neighbors knew other neighbors. We're a mixed-race community. We just after our new democracy. It was an interesting place to live in. I've lived around ArcelorMittal for many, many years. My father worked there, my brother worked there. I see it every day when I wake up. It's one of the big polluting companies in our area, one of the biggest steel mills in the world. Still Valley, currently there are about 4 properties that are left and 3 families that are currently residing in the area. They don't have a normal life like everybody. They are being intimidated. We saw other families, they've already left the area, but the houses are still there, trying to regroup somewhere, start a new life somewhere. It has been a battle to understand how far the entire pollution went and the truth of the cost of this pollution.
I mean, this whole place, there was a thriving community. There was a garage, a supermarket across me. There was a hardware store, spares places. There was some businesses behind me. There was butcheries and businesses like that. And all of that has been taken away. I'm the lone guy in a very lonesome area. Living across ArcelorMittal, it's constant air pollution coming through. We were very seriously ill. My family was ill. My children was very ill. And I didn't know the long-term effects of this pollution on my family and myself. So I said I needed some form of medical. I didn't just want a replacement of my property, but I would have taken it if they offered me a decent replacement, but they offered me 50,000 rand. But I wanted a medical assessment, a medical scheme or something. And we went to court to get it, and we had huge difficulties.
Ik was de eerste zwarte man tussen hen in 1990. En dan, in meeste van die wetmensen is het geboer met beesten, met schapen en met... Hij had ook geploegd, milies gepland. Maar zijn milies was nog niet, het had niet mooi geleken. Nadat hij het gezien, daar komen mensen wat komt toe dat die grond is niet recht door Iskorse water. Die dieren zijn ongezond geworden, ziek geworden en dood gegaan. Die water gedrinkt, want onze boer gaat ook hij gif van Iskor. Als ons waterpomp was, kreeg hij gif in onze boer gaat. Man, mijn hart wordt zeer, want Iskor kreeg me zo, ik heb het gekocht zo. Nou, hij dreigt mij om die plek te verkopen. Nou, met die geld wat hij zoekt.
Louis Res was a beautiful place. They had a wonderful church. They had community shops. They had a local school. They had paved roads. They had a vibrant community and a dairy garage. And this is life that I think every South African was wishing for. And all that infrastructure was destroyed.
I can't use my land for any purposes like to plant vegetables or stuff like that. So it's worth nothing. They never will. They never will tell you that they polluted the water. We had a lot of meetings with them. We had 50-50 in the area. Special assignment was in the area. Carte Blanche was here. My husband took them around the whole area around Mittel to see where is the water coming from. And we had a lot of people from all over the world that could see the pollution is coming from Mittel. And they're still denying it.
It has been a battle to understand how far the entire pollution went and the truth of the cost of this pollution. Committee members started noticing something wrong in the water. The animals were not healthy anymore. Most of their crops started to fail. And they then engaged the Western Services Council, who had some meetings with the then ISCO, now known as ArcelorMittal South Africa. Members of the committee, they were given a chance to ask what is happening with water, but ISCO then denied that they were polluting the underground water and the local stream, especially the Rispruit River and towards Vaal River. So it's when the whole thing started around about 1999, where the Minister of Water Affairs was involved, forced the company to do studies to find out what was the problem.
So one of the most interesting aspects of the politics of knowledge in Steel Valley is exactly this environmental master plan. It was first undertaken around 2000. People started working on it. It was quite an expensive undertaking. It was wide-reaching. It included everything you would expect from an environmental impact assessment. They even counted the birds and the graveyards and so on. So it's very clear that pollution took place, and it even describes exactly how it took place. It also looks at the different areas, and it tells you, they make a calculation of how much it would cost to remediate it. The interesting part about this is, one, it was used as an official document to negotiate with Water Affairs conditions of water use licenses.
Environmental Master Plan, it was a document that was commissioned by then ISCO to find out how far the pollution, especially underground water, went outside their boundaries to surrounding communities. And committee members were promised during consultation processes that when the document becomes available, it will be shared by local stakeholders to understand how far the pollution went outside the ArcelorMittal boundary. Unfortunately, the report was finalized around about 2003. There was some engagement with local communities, government, in terms of how the document was supposed to be presented. In 2003, we were only given a summary report of the document. And we're not happy as an organization and surrounding communities, because we're expected to get the full report and get experts on the report from our side to then verify what the findings of the master plan and how the pollution was going to be remediated. And that never happened. Committees were never presented with the master plan. We don't know how far they are in terms of the remediation and rehabilitation of the environment outside their boundaries.
The South African Human Rights Commission plays a role between the citizens on the one hand and the government on the other. And essentially what we do is to facilitate dialogue and discussion between citizens and between the government. We bring parties around the table, we engage with those respective parties so that they are able to talk to each other and work together alongside each other to ensure the realization of the rights contained in the Constitution. Essentially, PAIA is a basis for accessing all kinds of information relevant to a particular community or individual. We've used this legislation to access information around social grants, and we've also used this legislation to access information on socioeconomic rights, particularly the right to water, education, healthcare. So the legislation is really broad enough and diverse enough to be able to be used in a wide range of instances.
A PIA request is a tool which enables you to access information that you might need to realize another right that you have. So in order to assess whether either the government or a private body is violating your rights, sometimes you need information to be able to do that. So what PIA does is enable you to submit a request under that piece of law to be able to make that assessment. So PIA makes a distinction between requests to public bodies and requests to private bodies. There's two important distinctions there. The first is about how you ask for the information that you're looking for. If you're asking for information from a public body, all you have to do is ask for it. You don't need to explain why you need the information, and you don't need to justify your request. That's different if you're asking for information from a private body. In that case, what the law says is that you have to ask for the information and also show that you need that information in order to either exercise or protect another right that you have. So it's a slightly higher standard that you have to show in order to make a request to a private body. The second important difference between public and private PIA requests is around appeal mechanisms. Because if a public body declines your request for information, you have what's called an internal appeal. So what that means is that you get to appeal that decision to somebody higher up in the department, somebody like a Director General or a government minister. But on the other hand, if you are submitting a request for information to a private body, then there's no internal appeal. So if they refuse your request, then all you can do is go to court.
If we had this master plan, we'll manage to assess how far the pollution of ISCO went outside their boundary. We'll manage to assess how far the land has been contaminated around the community. And we'll use that as a tool to claim liabilities to the company in terms of how far they've damaged the health, the economic conditions, how people lost economically in this area. It will empower the community.
Centre for Environmental Rights is a non-profit company and a law clinic. We're in Cape Town. We're established in October 2009 when 8 civil society organisations in the environmental and environmental justice sector got together to form the CER. What the centre aims to do is to advance the realisation of the constitutional environmental right, and we do this by providing legal and related support to communities and NGOs, and also by engaging in legal research, advocacy and litigation. For many years, VEG had been trying to access the master plan from ArcelorMittal, and they'd been refusing VEG access to the plan, apart from this executive report. But VEG had never used the Promotion of Access to Information Act before, which is known as PIA. So PIA really aims to give effect to the constitutional right of access to information. In terms of the Constitution of South Africa, we all have the right to an environment not harmful to our health or well-being.
And to have the environment protected for the benefit of the present and future generations.
Through reasonable legislative and other measures. So VEG sought access to the master plan to protect and exercise its constitutional environmental right. ArcelorMittal's response to the application was to refuse the request. They said that VEG had failed to show that they had a right that could be exercised or protected by the records. They said it's not enough just to say that ArcelorMittal had impacted on the environment or that there was non-compliance with the law. They said that the master plan was also out of date, it couldn't be relied on, it was irrelevant and scientifically flawed, so they refused the application. When ArcelorMittal refused our application, we had the right to approach court on VEG's behalf, which is what we did. We went to the High Court in Johannesburg, and we asked the court to compel ArcelorMittal to release the documents to us. In September 2013, Acting Judge Carstensen found in VEG's favour, and he ordered ArcelorMittal to release the master plan. He said that civil society has the right to protect, exercise and enforce its right to seek access to information so that it can assess whether or not facilities are complying with the law. He said Section 24 of the Constitution encourages such campaigns, and organisations like VEG must exercise their rights and work together with government to ensure achievement of Section 24's objectives. ArcelorMittal didn't release the master plan as required by the court order. Instead, they asked for permission to appeal, and the case is now currently pending before the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein.
What PAIA does, it allows you to get information where information has been hidden from you. Everybody can use PAIA, especially against public bodies, your government, your local government, your councillors. Without any information, you cannot assess where the wrongdoings were being done. You have to be brave and to make sure that committee members understand fully what the battle is all about. Because it's not a short-term battle, it's a very, very long-term battle. We have to be resourced fully with lawyers who understand legislation, who are prepared to go to court using all the tools. You have to campaign, you have to bring everybody on your side.
The first step into lodging a PAIA request is to complete something called a PAIA Form A. PAIA provides that for you to lodge an access to information request, you need to fill out a form. Form A applies to public bodies and Form C applies to private bodies. A public body is defined in PAIA as any government department, whether national, provincial or municipality, or any other institution that is performing a power or function in terms of the Constitution or a law. Private bodies in terms of PAIA would be any natural person carrying on trade or business in that capacity, or a partnership or juristic person. For you to fill out the form, you need to know the contact details of the relevant information officer. And PAIA provides that the head of every public institution or the head of any private institution is automatically the information officer. With respect to public bodies, information officers are allowed to designate deputy information officers. And these deputy information officers are responsible on a day-to-day basis for the processing of PAIA requests. You fill out the contact details of this information officer or deputy information officer in the form, and then you fill out your own contact details, including your ID number and contact address. After filling out your contact details, you fill out the particulars of the record that you're trying to seek. You don't need to be very specific in terms of the record you're trying to access. You could be very general because you do not know this particular record in which the information will be contained in. All you know is that you need a specific information. After you fill out the particulars of the record, you fill out the section dealing with fees. PAIA provides that certain categories of people are exempted from paying fees. If the exemption applies to you such that you are a student or you are unemployed or you earn less than a certain amount on an annual basis, then you fill out that you are exempted from paying fees. The next step is to fill out the form of access. In PAIA, you are allowed to fill out the manner in which you want to access the record. Either you want it in English or in any other language. Either you want a copy of that particular record, or either you want to only view this record. You sign and date the form and indicate how the information you've requested should be given to you. Public bodies need to respond to an information request within 30 days. There's a provision that they can seek an extension for an additional 30 days. Should an information request be denied within the 30-day period, or should you not get a response to an information request within the 30-day period, for public bodies, there's a right of internal appeal, and public bodies must respond to any internal appeals lodged within a period of 30 days as well. The internal appeal requirement does not apply to private bodies, so if an information request is unsuccessful to private entities, then the only form of recourse is to approach the magistrate's court.
So the South African Human Rights Commission, together with other Chapter 9 institutions, particularly the Public Protector, has the requisite authority to use the access to information legislation to request the requisite information from the government to empower citizens. Civil society organizations have also played an important and critical role in assisting communities to access this information.
The PAIA Civil Society Network plays a very critical role in monitoring compliance with the obligations of PAIA by public and private entities. They offer training to communities on how to exercise their right of access to information. And over and above that, they develop promotional and educational material, as well as assist certain complainants to help them litigate against some unsuccessful PAIA requests. The South African Human Rights Commission has offices in all the 9 provinces, and one of our mandates is to assist complainants to realize any of their human rights. So if a complainant wants to lodge an information request and they do not know how to go about it, they can approach any of our offices to seek assistance, and we will help them in completing the form. We would also help them in following up with the information request that was lodged, and give them the relevant information once it is received.